And we welcome you back to the Shake Back Sports Show right here on the Big Game Christian Sports Network. As Anthony Hamilton is telling us in the background, got time and a story to tell. We're going to talk about where we came from, man. And where we came from was the first segment. That's when Corey Ellison joined me once again. And we talked about the champions of the world in the National Basketball Association. I got a special guest, but not really. She's a special guest to this show, but she's not a stranger to me at all. Natalie Turk. We're going to bring her in just a moment before we move on in further in this second segment. It is being brought to you by the Big Game Christian Sports Network. That's right. We are on YouTube at BGC Sports Network 1. Make sure you click the subscribe button there and get our videos. You can also catch us on Twitter at BGC Sports 1 and on Instagram at BGC Sports 1, Facebook, BGC Sports Network for this show. On Instagram, that is _shake_back sports. And for Twitter, that will be at shakeback sports. All right, coming to the microphone and in the studio with me is my hashtag sissy of baseball. She is a brand new guest to this show, Cleveland sports talk writer and baseball aficionado. You heard me right. Natalie Turk. What's up, sis?
Hey, how you doing, Lily?
Good. Welcome to the Shake Back Sports Show. We usually are talking about baseball during this time, of which we're going to get into that later on in the weekend. But welcome to the Shake Back Sports Show. I'm so happy to have you here with me again, or for the first time. But, it's like ludicrous, back for the first time. So I'm glad to have you here.
I am glad that you asked me to be on. I'm a big football fan, too, so this should be fun.
Yeah, and speaking of football, we're just going to jump right in it from there. Of course, if you were so socially distant last Sunday or in week 5 or hiding under a rock, you would have seen or at least heard of what happened to quarterback from the Dallas Cowboys, Dak Prescott, and the gruesome leg injury that he suffered in that game against the New York Giants. When I saw it, I almost threw up my liver, my spleen, my pancreas, and every other internal organ that I have. Natalie, did you actually see the play?
Well, I did. I was, not live, but within a few minutes, I was watching another game and, it came across a ticker on the bottom and I turned to that game and literally, and I have a strong stomach. It was hard to watch that replay again, and they kept showing it, and the concern, for what would possibly the implications of his career, and just not even thinking his career, but just that injury at the time. It was gruesome to watch, but it was also just heart-wrenching to think of the pain in the future, and just everything was rushing through my mind at one time.
And when I saw it, when I first saw it, I said, oh God, this isn't going to be good. And then the camera zoomed in on it and showed him to actually trying to pop his ankle back into place.
Yes.
And then when that didn't happen, he lifted his leg up. You can see all y'all out there listening can't see it, but we're going to post this video to YouTube, and this ankle kind of looked like this. If you can see that, Natalie.
Yes.
Or his whole foot, really, his bottom part of his leg. And of course, that game was on here in the local market because it's the local market. But I saw that and I said, oh my God. And I hate the Dallas Cowboys. You understand? I mean, I despise them. They and it's not really them, it's their fans. I can't stand their fans. But so the injury, of course, wound up being diagnosed as a broken ankle and a dislocated ankle. He had surgery that night out of fear of an infection, and he's going to be out 6 months. So I have a couple questions that I want to ask Natalie about that. And one of them is, do we really think that he's going to be the same after he comes back from this? Because one of his strongest suits was being durable, and now he's going to be out for 6 months with an injury, a catastrophic injury, and one that he really needs because he uses his legs a lot to run the ball.
Right, I was going to say that. So his legs definitely are, one of his strengths. And I don't think, sadly, and I don't really like the Cowboys either. So I don't wish that on anyone. So, but I don't think that his career is going to be the same. I just don't think he's going to be an elite QB1 coming back after this. It's going to be a lot of work for him to rehabilitate that in general. So I just think with his quickness and the way he relies on his legs for movement, 6 months of an injury, I mean, that's going to be, I think he can just start practicing again in 6 months. I mean, depending on how long this season lasts, if there's any delays with COVID, or, if he'll be able to play next season. I just don't see, him getting back to where he was. And even though we could share some dislike for the team, of course, that's his career. And when I saw him getting carted off the field, and he had those tears in his eyes, but later they posted a video of him in the hospital, and at least he had a smile then. But in that moment, I was thinking, he's probably feeling the physical pain, but just all those emotions running at him, asking the same questions you asked me. Where's my career? My life, my livelihood, my passion is probably what he was thinking as he's getting carted off that field. And I don't think it'll be the same.
Well, one thing that we know about Dak, and particularly here in this area, is how, number one, a wonderful young man he is, and number two, the type of leader that he is, and number three, we've seen him have to bounce back, or in this case, shake back from adversity. And stories like this are one of the reasons why this show was created. But and his faith in God, his faith in our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ is the biggest thing that he has in his corner. And just from the scene on the field when the injury happened and he was being loaded up onto that cart, and all of the players from both sides coming over to him and really sharing their feelings with them and telling him, hey, it's going to be all right. All of the encouragement they were giving him. And even his former head coach, Jason Garrett, went over there and checked on him, which is what I thought was one of the most classy moves I've seen by an opposing, member of a coaching staff in a very long time. So, and then later on in the week, I believe it was on Thursday, because I actually tweeted about it. I think I tweeted about it at Shakeback Sports, where he was in the car and he was on his way to the doctor and he was in nothing but great spirits. And I was like, how can you not love this dude?
Yeah, that's true. And I do agree with that. So I don't mean to be so negative, because I do believe in faith getting us through things of adversity that, it may, doctors say one thing, people can say whatever, but we don't control that. Higher power does. So hopefully I'm wrong in what I'm saying about him physically. And if he has that spirit and that will to fight, and he's a fighter, and you've mentioned that he does have that, then he would have a chance, to pull that together, putting in that hard work, and then, just also his faith behind him.
Yeah, and also, his of course his mom passed away when he was younger. His brother just committed suicide earlier this year. He came out and said himself, or about himself, that he was feeling he had bouts of depression because of the COVID, because of his brother, because of his mom, because of everything that was going on. And trust me, he ain't the first man that has gone through that. I mean, I've got a shake back story a bit of myself regarding all of that. But I am a truly, truly, truly avid Dak Prescott fan. And you can say, well, how can you? It's kind of like you. How can you be a Steelers fan and a Browns fan? Well, how can you hate the Cowboys but love their quarterback? I love their quarterback, the man, first, and then I love their quarterback because he's the quarterback. He's a good quarterback. Secondly, and just when a person has gone through what he has gone through, I mean, if you're not a fan of that then you need to check your heart and check your blood, because either you're pumping ice or ice water, or you're not pumping anything at all. So but then I thought about, and let's go to the own, or really the business part of this now, because as we know, Dak was playing under the franchise tag for 31.4 million. And Natalie, down here in the Dallas area, that talk seemed to had been going on about whether it was, people were saying it was going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Well, it never did happen. But now with him, with this injury, how is this going to hamper his ability in the pursuit of him actually getting a long-term deal?
Yeah, I think that I'd say it's sort of like a gamble. He was taking with the contract, and kind of like Kirk Cousins did. And I don't see him being able to get the type of contract that he was shooting for with the franchise after the injury. I don't know if that's what they're saying down there in the area as well, but it almost seems as if maybe he should have.
Yeah.
I guess you could say maybe shoulda, coulda, woulda. I mean, we can't go back in time, but looking at it now, it doesn't seem to have been a good decision move on his part. But like you said, hopefully with the faith he'll get that. But realistically, I'm not sure on a business side that that's going to happen.
I think he's going to be just fine. I don't know really and truly if he's going to spend the rest of his career with the Cowboys. Especially, it was already in jeopardy, and that was a bunch of stuff that was being whispered about that down here. But now with this happening, I don't believe it's going to happen at all. I still think he's going to get, because the whole thing about his contract negotiation, Natalie, was the fact that the Cowboys wanted to give him 5 years and he wanted 4. And that's because of the new TV money that's going to kick in, I believe, in the season of 2022. So he was going to take the max deal that he could get now, but they wouldn't come off. They being the Cowboys wouldn't come off for 5 years. So he got hung up because he wanted to get this big contract and then bet on himself again in 2023 or whenever it is when the TV deal comes out and get another big contract. But I think this is what's going to happen at this point. I don't know if they're going to be willing to franchise him at this point, because that was the first thing they were going to do. They were going to franchise him again next year. And then he would be an unrestricted free agent, can go anywhere he wanted. I don't know if they're going to do that this year. They may offer him a 1-year deal or maybe even a 2-year deal, which is that I think that'll still be right up his alley. But of course, the amount of money at that point will be significantly less, even with Patrick Mahomes getting $500 million and Deshaun Watson getting what he got, and with Lamar Jackson going to get what he's going to get. So I don't know. And nobody's really down here talking about it too much at this point, because the season, of course, is still going on. And the outlook for the Dallas Cowboys, I can tell you right now that a lot of people are thinking that they're going to be better than they actually were with Dak at the helm. And the reason why that is because they got Andy Dalton, and who you probably are familiar with, being from Cleveland. Him coming over from the Bengals, he played at TCU down here. I think he's from some small town in Texas. He signed for $3 million with the option of getting up to $7 million that he's probably going to get now. And hey, Andy Dalton's he's taking this team taking teams to the playoffs many times before. Now, when they got there, they ain't won nothing, but
that's true. And I mean, he has great weapons, at his disposal there in Dallas. I'm going to tell you one thing, though. If the defense doesn't step up for Dallas, Troy Aikman can come out of the booth and throw, and they're not going to win. So unless this defense steps up, they gave up 49 points to Cleveland. I mean, so I think if the defense gets it together, Dalton will be fine. So wouldn't have concerns for Dalton, but I definitely think that Dallas defense needs to step up for sure.
I think this is what I think is going to happen. Okay. They still have Ezekiel Elliott in the backfield, $90-something million extension that he got last year. They still have CeeDee Lamb, who is come out like gangbusters.
Oh yeah.
They still have Amari Cooper, but he disappears at times, but he can
I take him in FanDuel some weeks. I'm like, okay, hello, can you give me some points? Right?
And then they have Michael Gallup. But the thing is that I think they're going to rededicate themselves to running the football, even though their offensive line is in a shambles. I mean, their line is terrible. Tyron Smith is out for the year, and Joe Looney is out for a while, and Lyle Collins is out for the year. So they're playing with two backups at the tackle positions. So they're going to rededicate themselves to playing smash mouth football. They'll probably go heavy sets with 2 or 3 tight ends, and that'll open up the play action for Andy Dalton to get separation for those wide receivers. And then on top of that, and this is going to be the biggest thing, it's going to allow them to let the defense rest and get into a bit of a rhythm and pin their ears back and just go for the jugular. Because when you have Aldon Smith, who hadn't played football in 5 years, on one side, leading the NFL in sacks, and you've got DeMarcus Lawrence, your $20 million dude, on the other side, something's going to give on that. So I think that, selfishly, I'm hoping that they suck. But I think I don't think it's a total disaster like some people around here may be thinking it's going to be. And as a matter of fact, Natalie, there's people on the national level. I can't think of who said it. It may have been Damian Woody, or it may have been Marcus Spears. And of course, Marcus Spears played in Dallas, and he actually still lives in Dallas. But he has said that, or they have said that the Cowboys offense is actually going to be better.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's an interesting take. I mean, but I don't have any issues with Dalton. Like I said, being from Ohio, I'm used to that name. I'm not watching the Bengals play a lot, so I think they'll be all right there. If the defense can get it together, I like the way that you mentioned that, giving them a rest or whatever, then hey, I think they're still lined up to win. I thought the last, they won it for Dak, I guess, per se. We'll kind of see what happens going forward, but maybe that also pushes the team. I mean, depending on the team camaraderie, I think that sometimes they can really bond through an injury, something like that was that significant to their quarterback. So
yeah, you're right.
I'm a big believer in that kind of thing.
Yeah, well, like I said, selfishly, I hope they suck for
right
the year. But this is the thing too that they have, the biggest thing that they have going for them, as we have about 15 seconds left to go in this segment. The biggest thing that they have going for them is that they play in the worst division in all of organized sports. I ain't talking about just the NFL. I'm talking about from Pee Wee League all the way up to the NFL and in any other sport out there. All right, so it's going to wrap it up for the second segment here on the Shake Back Sports Show. I got my hashtag Sissy of Baseball with me, Natalie Turk. Come on back on the other side of the break, man. We're going to get into some hashtag Homer stuff. I'm going to let her spew off some things about the Cleveland Browns, and they're playing very well. All right, so Natalie Turk, Corey Ellison, Marquesson Huff to the dopest engineer in the game, Big Dave, Willie Epting Jr. Y'all come on back and holler at us.